and welcome to yet another episode of Question and Answer. I am Kristen.
I'm Jessie.
And I'm Ashley.
Yay! So today we have with us another We Do Travel Right agent, Ashley Blankenship, and she is here to talk to us all about going to Disney if you have a member of your party that has special needs. So again, this is a topic I don't even know much about.
I don't know much about it.
Especially because they've recently changed the DAS, the Disability Access Service system. I was a little bit familiar with the old one, Jessie too, but now they've changed it and we kind of checked out because it seems a little bit complicated for us.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated than it used to be.
Yeah, so this is going to be a great opportunity to kind of learn some hacks and some tricks all about that, see how it works. And so Ashley, let's dive right into it.
All right, let's do it.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How long have you been an agent?
So, like you said, I'm Ashley Blankenship. I currently live in Maryland, but I'm a Southern girl at heart. I was born and raised in South Carolina, and I am a pediatric occupational therapist in my other life. So I have been doing that for over 10 years. I've only ever worked in this pediatric space. So while I can give you tips and tricks on your adult special needs, generally that is my expertise. And I currently work in the school system here in Maryland. I'm helping service IEPs and children with special needs in the schools.
I love that.
And I've been an agent with We Do Travel Right for 2 years, but I have been a travel agent a little bit longer than that, going on about 7 years.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's a long time.
Experience there too, in both worlds.
I know.
So right off the bat, what are some of the misconceptions that you've run into dealing with clients and then again in your day job about traveling with special needs, children especially?
So what I hear is that it's too hard. We won't be accommodated, or they can't cover my child's needs, or there's too many things, like staying in a hotel is too hard, but then it's easier to stay at Disney if you're in a Disney hotel, those kinds of things. And that, the other thing that a lot of people worry about, especially in the pediatric space, is that it's too overwhelming, that it's too overstimulating for my child.
Yeah.
So I think that those are things that I really try to help ease parents' minds about what you can and can't do, where you can and can find help and assistance to make sure your family has a great trip too.
That's awesome. I know it can definitely be overwhelming for kids. And I've heard with headphones, they help, but are there any other things you can really do to help them?
How do you guide a family through that process?
Yeah. So I often help people think about first think about your child. What are their specific needs? Yeah, Disney is overstimulating because there's always going to be a lot of sounds and a lot of people and a lot of things to look at. For all of us, right?
Yeah.
And so first, what about your family, your child, your person that has extra needs? What sets them off? Or what are they going to be gravitated to? You don't want to have to fight a meltdown every time you pass the bubble wands because your kid loves bubbles and is hyper fixated on bubbles. So setting them up for kind of just take a quick extra step and think about what is or isn't going to hurt us or help us. The other thing is, people don't realize there are so many quiet, calm places in the parks. You do have to look for them sometimes.
You do.
But there are these spaces where you can just take a towel or a blanket, put it on the ground, put your family out and chill. And then you're still in Disney. You're still in the place with the magic and the wonder, and you're close to the things. You don't have to go all the way back to your hotel because sometimes that can be more difficult.
Yeah.
But just getting away to a quiet corner, having the snacks that your kid is used to on hand, and taking a minute can really make or break your day.
That's really good advice. Yeah, because I was like, I don't know. How does that work?
Yeah.
That was not on our questions.
Things like right off the bat, things like, where the, where Gaston's is next to the Little Mermaid. If you go all the way back in there, you can get a table back there. There's a set of bathrooms there. Yeah. And it's not often people, because it's not a thoroughfare.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a great place that I like to tell people about, or just sitting on the hub grass, letting your kid run and get out there and knowing you're sitting there, you're looking at the castle, you've got your Starbucks, but you don't always have to be go to have a magical Disney vacation. And I think that is very important for families that have different needs.
Yeah. Personally, I love the spot in Epcot up by the Pixar shorts, where the fountains are in the back. I love that spot. Just going up there and just hanging out and looking out is so nice, and it's so relaxing.
Absolutely.
I
I
love
love
it.
that spot for nostalgic reasons because I remember
know.
playing there as a kid in those fountains, and now I just like to go sit and watch like my kids play in those fountains, and I'm always like,
I know.
My mom just sent me a picture like from when I was 5 of those fountains like hopping over
Oh
us.
yeah. Yeah.
exactly,
I know. Never
exactly.
take those fountains away. They're amazing.
It's such a cute little magical space, and it's like, again, I feel like they change so much in Disney that it's nice, right? When you can find like a little place that is quiet that just can bring you back in time, you
I
know?
know.
Absolutely.
And the water noise is just majestic.
I'm going
I
to go
love
to Epcot now. I just want
Yeah.
to.
Let's go. See you there from Maryland. It's so
So
cold
we were
here.
yeah, we were talking about it a little bit in the beginning of the episode, but the DAS system, it's Disney's disability access system. They've changed it a lot. Can you just give us like a very basic rundown of what it is and like
how it works.
how,
Yeah.
Tell me like I'm
So-
5.
Okay, sure. So the Disability Access Service, or the DAS, is basically a way to allow you to wait in line without having to wait in line. It is separate from the Lightning Lane process or any of the other rigmarole that you can do to shorten your line wait, but it is specifically for people that have alternative needs. There was some changes recently where they've kind of removed physical needs from this because Disney feels like they can accommodate those in a different way. But this is more for your emotional, developmental, or neurodivergent type needs. Developmental delay, autism is a big one. You do not have to specify a disability or a diagnosis to qualify. That is an important point. If you or your child do not have a diagnosis from a doctor, but you still feel like you have legitimate concerns about having to wait in line, I urge you to try to apply so that you can make sure that you are not having meltdowns in the middle of it.
Yeah.
The key points for DAS are you can start applying up to 60 days prior to your check-in. You do it via a video call. So you go on the Disney's website, you look up DAS, and when you're ready, you join a video call with a cast member, and you basically just chat with them and explain, these are the reasons why I think it would be very difficult for my family to wait in line. And they review all the information you give them, and then they either approve you or don't approve you. You can apply more than once. So if you are not approved the first time and you feel like, I didn't explain myself well. Like there were more things that I should have said about
nervous, like talking to like having to explain myself to somebody like over a camera, like that's terrifying.
Absolutely. Or maybe you didn't know, like maybe you have small children and you're like, I think this would help, but this is all I know. And then you go take your kids to the circus. That feels like a weird example, but the circus, and you have to wait. It's just not very common anymore, but that was the first thing that popped in my head. But you wait in line to get in or wait in line for cotton candy or whatever. And suddenly you realize, oh, my kid cannot be still, or they cannot handle someone in front and in back of them.
Yeah.
Or we just couldn't get through it. Then you have new information that you might want to reapply with.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good to know because first of all, I didn't know that you could reapply. Is there like a time frame, do you know?
So like since your last application?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know that 100%.
Do you know how long it lasts?
Right. So I do know that once you are approved, it lasts for, I want to say it's 280 days.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
That's a lot longer than the last time.
So if you have, say, 2 trips planned in a year, you may be covered. You may only have to do it once for both trips, which is especially important for people who live closer. You guys like Florida residents.
Yeah.
You don't have to get on the video chat and redo it every time. There are some limiting factors that I think are important that people know because it allows a group. Obviously, we're not going to ask a child with disabilities to go through the line by themselves.
No.
So they need, it doesn't only apply to them as a single person, but they have kind of limited it to their immediate travel party. When the restrictions came out, this at first was very strict. And then they kind of realized, well, people travel with their extended family and they don't want to split up from, you can't say like, hey, grandparents, we're going to go do this.
Yeah.
Right? We'll see you in an hour. So now it's a little bit more case by case, but in general, they're trying to say, keeping it too small. You can't just show up with 20 of your friends.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
Because they do have to think about the whole guest experience, that they want to accommodate these people, but they don't want to abuse it or have people abuse it. So then it impacts the rest of the guest experience as well.
Of course.
Well, and I think that's why they changed it to begin with, right? Like there was a kind of a high level of abuse with it. And then the people that really need it are being, you know, kind of pushed out or marginalized with it. And then that helps nobody. So,
right.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So,
what is the best advice you can give a family traveling with special needs members? Is there like a key advice that you can think of?
I think my big takeaway is have an open mind, right?
Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
You don't know. Don't go into it thinking this is going to be so hard, but also don't go into it thinking it's going to be exactly like home, because it's not.
Yeah.
Some things I do think of are always ask, because Disney is especially, but traveling in general, people want you to have a good experience. They want you to enjoy your time. So always ask if there's something that's like not going well or that you need and you didn't realize you were going to need. Ask a cast member, hey, where could we use the baby care center because, you know, the changing tables are not quite the right size for my child? Or where would you recommend we get applesauce? Like, my kid's refusing to eat all the snacks that they normally would eat, and I know they'll eat applesauce. Is there just ask, and they may or may not have an answer for you, but they want you to have a good time, and they want to
Disney will typically find an answer for you.
Yeah, they'll try.
Whether or not the cast member knows, they would typically find an answer, especially when it comes to any kind of special needs or special requests. Most of the time, they're not going to be like, no, and just move on with their day.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they're going to be like, let me find someone who knows that answer because I don't.
Right. And even if they do, like they're that rare cast member that's like in the middle of it.
The rarity.
Right? They're dealing with it and like they cannot help you.
Ask someone else.
Find another cast member because, you know, sometimes even your answer will vary like person to person. Yeah. Because they, you know, were on a shift where they didn't learn the answer and this one
we're all human. So. They're going to have bad days too. So just ask the next seat. Thank you so much. I'll find somebody else.
A few fun facts that I did want to share that a Disney specific for our special needs families, you can find chicken nuggets at almost every restaurant. So do not feel like you as a parent are limited where you eat because your kid only eats chicken nuggets and french fries. Nuggets. They will find them for you. And the other one is you can have your stroller tagged as a wheelchair. Ooh. This is important for people who might have older children that are maybe a flight risk, that are maybe a fall risk. And so it's not that your child uses a wheelchair in their day-to-day life, but at Disney, when there's lots of people or there's unsteady ground, you may want them to use a stroller, and you can have that tagged as a wheelchair, which will allow you to take it a few extra places more than your average stroller.
Okay.
And I like to tell people to think about that.
Yeah. What's the process for that? Do you have to like apply beforehand, or is it something you do when you get into the park?
It is something you do the first day you go into your first park. So generally either at guest services or at I believe where you rent the wheelchairs, they can also give you the tags. And if you already have done DAS, I don't think there's any additional process for that. If you didn't feel like you needed the DAS additional help, but you do want that tag, I would probably direct you to guest services and just say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Could you give me the tag or not?
Yeah. I have another question that's not on the list.
Sure.
Because you were talking about it and I was like, oh, that's a good question. Because I was like, I don't know. Now, if someone thinks, hey, maybe my child grew out of the panicking around people, I'm not going to apply for DAS and see how it goes this time. They get into Disney, they realize, that was a horrible idea. I absolutely need this. My child cannot wait in this line. Can they go to guest services and apply?
I believe they can do it in person on the day of.
Yeah.
I am not 100% on that.
Yeah, me neither.
I do think
I know you used to be able to, but I don't know with this new system.
They may turn around and direct you to getting on a video call, but doing it in the moment.
That makes sense.
Because those cast members are
trained
in whatever the questions they ask you for.
I think that's probably the correct answer. We can look it up and we'll let people know on Instagram, but and I'll put it in the comments below. But yeah, that's an interesting turn because I know you used to be able to, but I don't think with this new one, I think you'll have to jump on a video call.
Yeah,
probably.
Because you're right. Like the people that are interviewing for this every day, they're gonna I would trust that more with somebody, you know what I'm saying, than
For
just
sure.
like going to a random guest services cast member who's kind of more trained to deal with like other
guest issues,
customer service issues than like, you know, somebody that's trained to deal with like, oh, okay, yes, I see.
Asking the right questions and making sure. But again, like always ask.
Yeah,
Find a person and ask them.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask. But yeah, we'll definitely get that information for you guys out there. And then, is there a resort or park that you find that's more accommodating for special needs?
So Disney is very accommodating across the board.
Okay.
And also the Disney resorts will let you have things like medical equipment rented in. Especially if you're flying from somewhere to come to Disney World, there are outside companies in the area and Disney partners with them or just lets them, you know, drop things off for you. Think like a medicine fridge or a specialty like crib or child size bed, I think can be brought in. Wheelchairs can be dropped off, strollers. So those kind of things can go to any Disney resort. Obviously, the ones with more transportation options are going to be easier for you if you are toting lots of extra stuff. Yeah. So those are your monorail resorts, things closer to Magic Kingdom, your Crescent Lake resorts, so Beach Club, Yacht Club, Boardwalk, even the Swan and Dolphin, because there's just less time and less things to put on a bus. I also really urge families that might have special needs to kind of pre-budget for things like minivans. You can reserve a minivan with accessibility. So putting a scooter or a wheelchair, even fitting a stroller in the back, you can prearrange that. And that can be easier and less overwhelming, overstimulating than the kind of public transportation model that Disney.
That's something I never even think of is minivans, because we live here. It's like, I've never been in a minivan. I've seen them, I've recorded them, but I've never been in one. So it's not something that I think of. I know, I should.
They're my favorite cast members to talk to.
I love it.
We did it a little bit more like when my kids were babies. Yeah. And it's like, we wanted to not like, I just needed to get back to the resort or I just needed to get where I was going. And I think my daughter was like 8 weeks when we brought her for the first time because we lived up north and my son was 10 weeks. And I remember on those kind of trips where they're still in the bucket, you know, because then they have the car seats are in there. And I remember we went to dinner at Wilderness Lodge and it was like, we couldn't, to get back, it was like we would have had to have taken a boat to the Magic Kingdom to then get on the bus to get back. And I was like, nope, minivan. Nope. I'm not doing that.
That is where we use it the most.
Explain to me how minivans work then.
Yes.
So like, does it work similar to Uber? Do you have to reserve it ahead of time? How does it work?
So they're powered by the Lyft app.
Okay.
So Disney partnered with Lyft. So you do
didn't know that.
You do need to download and that was for like computer system reasons. So Disney didn't have to rebuild a whole rideshare system.
Yeah.
So when you're on property, when you open the Lyft app, the minivan is an option.
Yep.
And so you choose it, you tell it how many people you have and where you are and where you're going. And
it works just like Uber.
Lyft. But they will come in that cute little minivan. And the benefit for people who may not know is minivans are driven by a Disney cast member.
Yes.
So they know the property well. They are always clean. As Kristen mentioned, they have up to 2 car seats with them at any given time. So if you have 2 car seat kiddos, they can accommodate both. And they have my sister actually ended up buying one after she went to Disney. They're a convertible car seat that swivels. So it can be rear facing if you have a baby that's rear facing. It can be forward facing if you have a toddler that's forward facing, or it can it can be a booster.
Yeah. Those are actually the car seats that we had when my kids were little. So it was great because we just knew exactly how to get them in and out. And
they're so easy because you swivel them to face you when you put them in.
Yes.
And Jessie doesn't quite well versed in the car seat world yet.
Not yet.
But
don't worry. If you just
I promise it's important.
Yeah.
What kind of car seat you get.
It sounds so convenient. That's why I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
I could see it was clutch when I had little babies. So I can only imagine if you have that extra layer of a child with special needs or an adult like that, it's going to really eliminate a lot of your stress. And I think a lot of the time, what we talk about on this show, especially is it a vacation if you're stressed out? Like if you're dealing with your stress of your everyday life, but compounded because you're away, are you really taking a vacation or are you just making your life more difficult? Yeah, I think telling some families to budget for that, to remove that level of stress is where you're really going to feel like, I am on vacation.
Yep.
For sure. I mean, that's a super good tip.
And if what that means is, because you asked, this all started with resorts, right? If what that means is you want to stay somewhere like Pop Century and go lower on your hotels so that you can budget for your transportation more easily, I think that's a great trade-off in your where you put your dollars and cents.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with that. And then when it comes to, I know we talked about it a little bit, but are there like specific spots in the parks that you can think of that are more calming for people that don't know about the Gaston's area or don't know about the Epcot Pixar Shorts area? Are there little spots you can think of offhand?
So the baby care centers is somewhere that I tell people about every time.
Yeah.
Because even though they're called baby care centers, you do not have to have a baby.
No.
Now
they're care centers.
There are care centers. They also have first aid in there in case, just for general knowledge, in case you ever needed first aid.
And you can buy stuff in there too. Like if you have a kid that needs a pull up and you brought 10, but you went through all 10 because it's one of those days, like they have that stuff. They have formula there. Like, so if you have any, I mean, those were so clutch when my kids were little. So
they also have Pepto, ibuprofen.
So first aid is staffed by a nurse generally. So, when you're thinking about a kid with a special needs, if what you just need is to bounce a question off someone with some medical background, that's where I would direct you to go as well. Of like, hey, we don't normally have this problem at home where we go through 10 pull-ups, but maybe it's the food, maybe it's the air, maybe it's the travel, like what would you recommend? There's someone there. That's where I almost like when I tell people in advance, I'm like, mark on your map. This is where the baby care center, there's one in every park.
Yep.
Basically anywhere in Animal Kingdom.
Honestly.
I love it there. I think it is the most calming. I was a cast member there. There's so many little trails and quiet places.
There are.
I
agree.
Where you can just chill out.
My favorite is back, like in the back of the tree. There's like a little pathway over by the, how do you say it, Kamal's fries area. So over back in there, there's like a little trail back there that like nobody goes to. I actually sat down the other day and I was just like working on my phone there and I was like, this is so nice. You have like a waterfall
pictures back there too. So it's like 2 for 1. You get some good family photos and then you get a little bit of a respite.
A little bit of break where you can put a towel down and eat a snack and kind of chill out a bit too.
Same thing on the other side of the tree by the cotton top tamarinds, like across from where the Starbucks is. That trail goes in behind the tree. And you can find a
like the Tree of Life trail over there.
Yeah. The one where they have the characters, right? Like they have them sometimes for Earth Day and all
for
of
the
that.
special events.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like right in the front of that trail. Yeah. But like if you go in the trail, like through the tree, it's so peaceful in there. I actually haven't been there in a while. I should go over there.
I should go over there.
Yeah.
We're always on a mission.
I know.
I need to take my own advice more. Like find the quiet places.
I mean, that makes a good content day though. We'll go in and we'll, gather all the peaceful spots. Be like, this is where you can go for this. Because again, a lot of people don't realize that there are peaceful spots inside Disney. Like you don't realize that. And then what about, we didn't talk about Hollywood Studios. Is there any in Hollywood Studios?
It's probably the hardest place to find because it's so compact, right?
Yeah.
It's so built in.
Right now by Mama Melrose's in the back of the Muppets area, right now back there is a little
But when
quieter.
Muppets gets out, then it kind of gets like flooded with people back
there.
there.
Construction-y.
It's like calm every like 10 minutes.
Every 10 minutes. Yeah. I'm
so sad still years later because this is my own nostalgia that they removed the play area.
I know.
The Honey, I Shrunk the Kids play area. I hope I'm holding on to hope that they bring one back because people tell me all the time, oh, I don't want to go to Disney and my kids just play on a playground. I'm like, but you do.
You do.
I promise you do. You want to get a snack and you want to get a drink and sit on a bench and watch your kids play because they have been waiting in line or they have been strapped in your stroller. Let them out. Let them play.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to avoid a meltdown? You give them a half hour at that playground.
Yeah. I was going to say right now, before they open the new show, right now by the Little Mermaid area in the back.
It's kind of quiet.
It is pretty quiet back there.
Back there by which Launch Bay. That's pretty quiet back there as of right now. That'll change once they redo everything. And then also right now, again, back by behind Rock and Roller Coaster.
I was going to say that.
That's another spot that's pretty quiet right now because they're building. So
but that'll change
in pre-building, not building just yet. So no building noises
in between, like where Indiana Jones is and where you come around the corner to like Hollywood and Vine.
Yes,
sometimes you can get a nice because there's not a lot of traffic on that side.
Yeah, and Echo Lake is just very like vibey too. Again, talking about nostalgia
because it's peaceful.
Yeah, that area has remained pretty much unchanged from when I was a kid,
Don't
you know?
change it.
You're
Knock
right.
on wood.
Yeah.
Disney, don't listen.
Don't listen,
Don't do
Disney.
that.
It's not, we like, no, it's fine.
We
Leave
love
it.
it. Don't change it.
Also, don't consider a resort day. I know it's not in everyone's budget, but I do think Disney resorts are built for them. They want you. I mean, they give you lots of opportunities to do things wherever you stay, and it doesn't matter if you're in a value, moderate, or deluxe.
And they have lots of activities too.
Daily activity. The pools are great if that's not your thing. Even, there's quiet spaces, there's green spaces. There's even, I think it's only at the deluxes, but there's usually a like activity room where you can go if it's a rainy day and make a friendship bracelet or, paint a pottery piece or something. They do all kinds of stuff.
They have a whole bunch of different ones. It's funny because I've actually gone to the resorts just to do an activity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm local. I'm going to a resort today at 4:00 because they have Mickey tie-dyeing at 4:00. So I want to do that.
Yep.
You made that like really pretty necklace too at the Polynesian.
I did at Polynesian.
Yeah. And then they have like a stained glass one too somewhere where you can like
Coronado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you have a kiddo that you think fireworks are not going to be their jam, whether it's for the sound or for the people that all have to congregate in one area to watch fireworks, almost all the resorts do a nightly movie, a projection movie. And I'll tell families, like, go back to your resort early, get a good spot, watch the movie. Some of them have views of fireworks from there, and then you have less noise, people, whatever. Finding those alternative spots for fireworks is a great option for families that might have some extra needs as well.
Yeah, because fireworks are scary. They're loud.
Even my two children, who are very typical, they wore headphones. We did a fireworks cruise, and the captain offered them headphones, and they both chose to wear them.
Yeah.
And it made their
nice
fireworks
to have that option.
more.
Yeah. Again, my daughter, who's typical for the most part, kid, she always has the earplugs because it just gets so loud. Mm-hmm. And then that I find is a trigger for like, I need to go to the bathroom, or I like the weepiness or whatever kind of comes with that. So it's just.
Yeah. Often kids can't just say the thing, right? And this is true for all children.
Yes.
They can't just say the thing of like, this hurts my ears and I don't want to do it anymore. So they'll say, I need to go to the bathroom, or I need a snack right now. I'm so hungry. Something to distract them from the thing. And we often know that in the pediatric space of therapy, what the diversion tactics are. Often our families with special needs are more tuned into that. Yeah. But just as a note for all parents, if you're noticing that commonly, every time you get in a line, every time, just kind of like take a step back and think, well, is this an overstimulation trigger? Yeah. And how can I change that for my child to make our whole family's experience better?
Yeah. And I know most kids have like the over the head big headphones, but I was telling Kristen, and Kristen's daughter just got them, but they're called loops, if you haven't heard of them. Mm-hmm. But loops are great. Kristen's daughter loves them now. I wear them all the time. They're little keychain. I keep it on my purse or on my keys, and they're really helpful for when like your child has that control of, here are my headphones, I have them with me, instead of having those big bulky ones like in the stroller. Sometimes it's nice just to have those little headphones in their pocket, on their keychain, in their little purse, whatever they may have with them. So they have the ability to be like, I'm feeling overstimulated. Sometimes they'll get like, I know her daughter, Kristen's daughter, will put them in herself and be like, okay, I'm overstimulated, I need to put them in real quick. So it kind of gives them that free option to do it themselves, which is nice.
And my daughter's 10 now. And I think, again, this goes for typical children and neurotypical children and everything. So she's getting to that point where like, she's a little bit more conscious of what is going on around her and how people view her. So it's one thing to whip out these big old headphones and be like, I am wearing these giant headphones and people will see me wearing these giant headphones, as opposed to these just kind of little like, and then nobody really knows they're there. And so I think that helps to like just feeling more comfortable and able to have that control and do that, is that nobody even knows that so
y'all made me think about something that I do recommend for my families that have special needs. There's something called social stories. Have you ever heard of this? So these are stories you write for your child, or if you have a therapist, generally a speech therapist, an occupational therapist that you might work with, can help you create these, that you use in repetition to prep a child for a change or something that needs to happen. So I often recommend that families write one for vacation, especially like, I'm going to go on a plane. My ears might pop, but I can ask for I can ask for a snack to help that happen, make me feel better, or something to drink. And you kind of repeat that a couple of days before. We're going to go to Disney World. There will be lots of people, but it will be lots of fun. I will have, and you often put the child into the story so that they can start to set up their brain. Jessie, you mentioned control and having control. It helps them know what's going to happen to me and what a good response would be.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I've never heard of that.
So there's often a lot of options on Pinterest already pre-made, and then you can just fill in your child's name. Or like I said, if you're already working with a therapist or a special educator, they can help you kind of make one that's specific for whatever situation you have coming up.
I love that so much.
And I think that's another reason too, like, just to wrap up, to book with an agent, and not only just any agent or agency. If you have a special needs child, working with an agent that has a background in this, because you might not think of doing something like that, but your agent, once they talk to you and they know your story, they're going to come, to the table with all of these recommendations, which again is going to make your trip less stressful, your trip more enjoyable. And then it's a real vacation and not like an exercise in aggravation.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's completely free to use an agent. It is no cost to you. The cost is built in by the vendor. They're the ones that you don't ever see an exchange there. So it's totally worth it. Whether you have a special needs child, a member of your party, just looking for a stress-free experience.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. It's the way to go, folks.
But thank you, Ashley, so much for coming on with us. This was absolutely amazing. I learned so much. Because again, we didn't know about, a bunch about special needs in the DAS system. And that was all really helpful. And hopefully people find it helpful, because it's a big topic,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely. And we'll put all of Ashley's info in the comments below. So if you, are looking for an agent that specializes in this sort of thing, you know where to find her. Yep. You can always reach out to us directly on social, and we can put you in touch with her if you're looking for her. Yeah. And thank you guys so much for joining us. Hope you learned a lot, and we will see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.